NANI?
Oh, hello friend. Today I have something a bit different. Armies of the United States for Bolt Action is up for pre-order. The book comes with a figure of Jake McNeese. For those who don't know who that is, the fat electrician did a good video as a primer. The book is set to launch in April. This gives us a set pace in which to expect future books. Using Armies of Germany as a template, there's about 3-ish months from announcement to release. Osprey, who publishes Warlord books, has set expected times for the next 2 Army books, with Armies of Great Britain in July and the Soviets in October. Though I am curious what new plastics the British might be getting. I could presume BEF, as they're still metal, though Wargames Atlantic has beaten them to that a bit faster than they did with the Italians. Rather excited to see the new Soviet plastics, as they are overdue for a rehaul. Next, something very exciting, new and shiny. New plastic paratroopers for the US, sporting the M42, the same uniform we see during Normandy. Now these aren't necessarily new to bolt action, as these uniforms did have a metal line. The first plastics for them were the M43, that's easy to tell apart as it lacks the distinct knee and elbow green patch, but also has the added option of being green itself. I suppose nothing could stop you from painting on the green patches, making the M43 a 42 or vice versa. The M43 plastics are a bit crude, very spindly arms, ginormous heads, even for heroic scale. The backs lacking detail, forcing you to assemble their packs. This is the one instance the metals are actually better aesthetically and sculpt-wise. Let's take a look at the sprue. First thing we notice is these boys may be even more dummy thick than the veteran Germans. Seem to have learned lessons from the GI Ranger kits, as we have a bazooka, a sniper rifle, many forms of SMG, satchel charge, and finally, a not awkwardly positioned BAR. The real piece de resistance, a hip-fired 30 cal. Great thing about this is you can now easily proxy a Stinger if you want to play USMC. If you know, you know. We find ourselves in a slightly similar, yet separate situation to the recent German editions, where the old Blitzkrieg kit sports a very early war, the veterans are more post-Barbarossa. Either kit's uniforms could be painted as an M36, 40, 41, since no truly noticeable changes happened until the 42. The US Paratroopers now having 2 kits that don't necessarily replace, but are uniforms from the latter section of the war. It really only matters if you're obsessed with the pinpoint accuracy for aesthetic reasons. More likely to replace my own paratroopers with the M42s. In defense of the older M43 kit, it does make a very good set for MGs, as it until now was the only way to get a multifaceted plastic MG. They come with a 30 cal and prone bodies to make a handsome MG nest. In bolt action, the main thing that sets an MG apart is the amount of crew. So you can start with 2 guys for an LMG, then add a random guy and make it a medium or heavy nest. I do use the same nest for all my allied armies to save some money. Next we take a peek at the new starter army. One thing that must be noted, paratroopers are generally far different than the other starters, as they have less stuff inside. Noticeably the vehicles, as it is setting up a scene that they just touch down after an airdrop, thus lightly equipped. The exception being the German paratroopers, as they are post-Crete, were turned mostly into Panzer Grenadiers. In 2nd edition, they were played default veterans with abilities such as stubborn, making them especially hard to shift. There is a light difference between the M42 and the M43 starters. The new M42 only gets 1 unique officer, as opposed to the full medic radio 2 unique officers, which is weird, as the older M42 does have a full senior leadership set. It does get full heavy weapons with added 2 MMGs instead of 1 HMG and an additional howitzer. Keep in mind, these weapon teams have already existed, so it's hard to say which ones are going to be reused or resculpted. Finally, there is the M3 Lee, which I do believe to be the first version of this tank in plastic at this scale. It looks heaps better than the old resin one. I almost thought it was the resin version until I looked deeper into the pics, as the turret is more shapely now. The M3 gets placed in a bigger bundle for the M42 Paratroopers and an Operation Torch set that is rather thematic. One last thing. Bolt Action Compendium, due out later this month. Very unique, as they took articles of unique scenarios of lesser known actions that could only come from passionate hobbyists throughout the years, with tweaks for 3rd edition. Mostly looks like partisan action with some Spanish blue and Polish, with something I would find very interesting, Red Star, White Star, which looks to be Operation Unthinkable. Rather nice seeing new paratroopers that definitely have the iconic vibe, though I currently have many projects needed to be completed before considering it just yet, but by then hopefully it'll be on a good discount.